Alright, folks. It's your boy Javier Javier, and we at the Javier Javier show. I'm here with the noble Nadia and Just Dre. Say what's up to the camera, folks.
Hey guys.
Alright, so this is like the first official Javier Javier show that we're recording, and got a few folks here with me, some of my closest friends, and you might be seeing their faces a whole lot more. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we're going to get into a very nice discussion.
Hey y'all, I'm Nadia, the noble Nadia. I'm the best friend. I don't even know what y'all want to know about me, but yeah, I'm the moderator, because these guys get really heated.
She's the moderator. Just Dre.
You know what up? My name's Dre, a.k.a. Just Dre.
I'm Cali.
A.k.a. Kurt Gotti. You know what I'm saying? Representing the West Coast. You know.
Yeah, he ain't had no nicknames before we started all this. Now he got nicknames.
Yeah, nigga just say your name is Just Dre, so I'm gonna say we got rules and shit.
I think it's you two. You don't want to.
Can we cuss?
You don't want to get a censor.
I think we can curse.
I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that in there.
I know in words.
Cause we got rap videos that use that word, so we're gonna use that. Leave that in there. We get in trouble. It is what it is. All right. So we usually discuss a range of topics. Me and Just Dre, we got like a lot of differences, but we got a lot in common. But we can talk about it with mutual respect. Sometimes things get heated. So today, we don't know what we're gonna talk about. So I'm gonna hit them with this. It was a time we spoke, Just Dre, and you said that you believe in a higher power of some sort.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as everybody know, I'm an anti-theist. I don't believe in any higher power.
Mm-hmm.
So explain why you believe in a higher power.
Explain why I believe in a higher power.
Yeah, what brings you to that conclusion?
I mean, for me personally, like I think it's very. I think humans and mankind in general it's very arrogant of us to, just assume that we're like the only intelligent force within the universe and everything, right? Like I believe, it's kind of hard to like really express that or like try to convince somebody who's, of course, like doesn't share those same exact beliefs and everything. But me personally, I definitely think there's a intelligence. Like I believe in God, but I don't believe in God in a traditional sense like everybody else does. Like I don't think it's some old white nigga. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't think it's like some old, Obi-Wan Kenobi looking dude up in the sky with a white beard and, like I don't think heaven is a physical place.
What do you think heaven is?
I think heaven is more of it's more of a state of consciousness or more of a state of awareness. Same with hell. I don't think heaven or hell is something like a destination. You die and you go there. I think you can experience heaven and hell like right here in life and on earth and stuff. But
okay, so are you saying like in a physical sense, do you say that you can experience heaven and hell right here on earth?
yeah.
I'm with you with that. Now, when you talk about when somebody dies, do you believe they go somewhere else, or do you believe that's the end of life, or there's some kind of heaven and hell after this?
Yeah, bro. Like I got a really intricate, long ass theory about that and shit. So I'll try to like. We can't cuss. Oh, damn!
You can curse. I don't know what kind of show this gonna be. I don't know. But we're working it out as we go along.
You see how he carries himself, and then we kind of,
I'm fighting for dear life not to use certain words of God.
I mean, it's culture and,
Yeah.
and stuff. But yeah, bear with me, y'all. But what the fuck was I saying?
You were saying that I asked you about heaven and hell after people die.
People die and everything like that. So, okay, so like I think it's Newton, right? He was saying energy never dies.
Matter can neither be created nor destroyed.
Right. It can only be transferred and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what I believe. I think like my beliefs are more, I believe like my beliefs kind of marry the gap between science and spirituality. So when I talk about God, I look at it more of like an energy or a frequency type of deal versus something physical.
I'm on the same page.
So you're on the same page?
In a sense, yeah.
So once again, I'm a minority.
Oh, God.
So,
I mean,
okay. So we're just trying to get a good feeling on what you believe.
Yeah.
So you said earlier that we as human beings, it would be arrogant for us to believe that we're the only intelligent life here. And I don't really think most people can honestly, intellectually say that we're the only intelligent life in the universe or whatever the case may be. But it may yet be arrogant, but it is still possible to be the only life. Do you agree with that?
That's possible, yeah, sure.
Okay, so you willing to entertain
I don't
thought?
know though, man, because like, look, all right, check this out, because we can go down like a rabbit hole if you want to. I mean, we can talk about UFOs and all that, like for real, and like they got that, like we could talk about that, and like the reason why I'm making that relevant to what we're saying right now is like they got like I just seen a couple of months ago something on CNN. They did an actual story, and like that story's been out for a while, but like they just picked it up recently. And it's basically an account of this Navy pilot, and they got it on tape. Like, we can pull it up right now. And, like, they were tracking this this flying object in the sky. And the maneuvers that it was doing, it was impossible for anything that was man-made. It obviously wasn't man-made. The shit was, like, excelling at unheard of speeds, and it could stop at a dime and twist. And, like, they got it on tape and everything. Like, they even have, like, a file in the government dedicated to the research of it. So... there's something out there. Like there's something, and then like just all the accounts of like UFOs. And stuff,
I'm willing to give you that. Scientists say that based on the vastness of space, that it's a high probability there's life in the universe. Literally, we should be finding life almost everywhere, but we haven't found life yet that can be confirmed. Now. There is what you call a great filter. A lot of scientists believe that once a civilization reaches a certain point, something happens where it destroys that civilization. And they think humans may either be before that point or we accidentally got past that point where other life didn't. So it's a high probability that there should be life out there. I'm 100% behind you with that. Now, we have to make that leap from intelligent life, aliens, or some kind of intelligent beings out in the universe, and get that leap to God. How do we get from there to God? Because I think we're on the same page with the whole intelligent life in the universe. It's highly probable. But how do we get to God? What do you define as God? Because I know you said earlier that...
Right. So for me, and like that... So earlier I said that I have a non-traditional perspective of God or a non-traditional understanding of God. So for me, because I think of God as something bigger than the idea of this physical being. Like the way that I think of God in an energetical, if that's a word, sense, to me that makes room for aliens, right? Because like the whole thing with like aliens is, okay, if aliens really came down today, what would that do to the earth as far as religion goes, right?
Yeah.
Because like technically aliens aren't really, like specifically covered.
I don't think it would take away
in the Bible. Well, see, because like, look, okay, so like the reason why I think it would really like shape like the religion, like especially Christianity of all religions, like because
Adam and Eve,
like Christians are like die hard, like.
But
if
the
it's
whole
not in
debate,
Bible,
the
it's
whole
not real.
debate with that is they'll say we're the ones in His image, and that if there's any difference in what we look like versus the aliens, they'll say that we're the chosen ones. I've had this conversation with Christians, and they fight. When you talk about aliens, they fight that with that.
Right, and like again, like that's another example of like arrogance and stuff. Like what? Like that's crazy to me. Like yeah, like there's,
I can't get
there's
over
aliens
that.
out somewhere, but we're the chosen ones though. Like how arrogant is that, right? Yeah. But like where I was trying to go with that was
that alien could come to this planet, and we would perceive that as a god.
Well, that's another theory, right?
Mm-hmm. That's something that they theorize has.
You could talk about the Anunnaki, like you could talk about all
Nephilim.
Nephilim. You could talk about the sky people that the Indians, like they drew these characters on walls and shit. Like they talked about the sky people, and like that's across a lot of ancient cultures who are like geographically too far to even have contact with each other to be coming up with the same
drawings are
shit.
very similar, right?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody talks about the 3 pyramids in Giza, but nobody really like talks about the other pyramids found in South America that were built around the same time.
Yeah,
it's like how the fuck do these two
and they align in a certain way,
and like and then mathematically exactly and stuff
and certain magnetic forces.
I may have an explanation for that. There might be a real life probable explanation for this, and I'm gonna say it like this: humans all share similarities. We all evolved from the same apes from Africa. I mean, that's a fact. Evolution is a thing. I'm not saying we evolved from the same apes you see now, but we have a common ancestor with those apes. Right. But we all evolved just like the same things we doing here in America. I can guarantee if you go to Africa, if you go to Europe, if you go to Asia,
that's an interconnection. That
people are doing some of the same things. You know, people been raping, pillaging, robbing, slavery, you name it, and they never met other cultures at that time. They were doing some of the same exact things. So those same stars that people saw in other parts of the world, other people saw in other parts of the world. Right. We share the same night sky.
But to come to those similar understandings and seeing those certain similar, what's it called? The fucking aliens, the different, like they saw some of the same
We don't do the same thing when it comes to other things. We don't do that when it comes to picking your nose. Oh, the man in Europe, he was picking his nose the same time the dude in North America was picking his nose.
Let me tell you why we don't,
got a finger
right?
in the hole.
Let me tell you, let me tell you why though. Right, exactly.
Some people do
that's
like
where
this.
I'm going. Like the reason why we don't do, because you said picking your nose. So like the reason why that's no big thing because we can explain that. Like they have boogers, like pick their nose. Like all the other shit that you just named, we can explain. The reason why like the whole pyramid thing is because even to this day, like they can't figure out how those motherfuckers back then built that shit. Right? Okay, so like this is like a great like even now like they're having problems like with engineers trying to figure out how the fuck they built that shit way back then. So like it's one thing for one culture to be able to do that during that time period with no seemingly adequate tools. But then like to have a whole nother fucking culture on the whole opposite side of the planet do the exact same thing. Like, so like me, like there's plenty of theories about that, but I read this one philosophy, it's called the Law of One. And like it pretty much like the way like the Law of One states this, right? When it talks about aliens at least. So aliens aren't really aliens. Like the world as we know it exists in 3 different dimensions. And they're in like these 8 different dimensions. They call them octaves.
Sound like the Law of 8 to me.
The Law of 8, I've never heard of that, but like as far as like everything is in like these 8 different densities. Each density operates in its own law.
Different frequencies that you can literally walk past somebody else in a different frequency and you pass right through each other.
It's more so like levels of consciousness. So like the first density, so like the beings that exist on the first density, right? Because everything is about life. So on the first density, that's where like living beings like plants and like the earth, like how like that's alive and shit. Mm-hmm. Like that type of consciousness operates on the first. The second density is like animals, fish, roaches, things like that of a limited type of consciousness.
Okay, yeah.
We operate in the third, and then everything beyond everything beyond the fourth is like on a different frequency. Like the fourth is like the density of love. The fifth is the density of wisdom, and then so on and so on. And then when you get to the 8th, it starts over to like the next octave.
That sounds like some new age philosophy type thing.
Well, like this actually came out in 1976, so.
Well, that I would have to read that book in order to really get a full understanding.
It's really interesting. So like, just look up the Law of One Simplified, because if you don't type it in Simplified, it's called I wrote it down for. It's called the Law of One.
Yeah, it's pretty
easy
to
remember.
The Law of One. But we're talking about 8 dimensions, so it should be the Law of 8.
So like the Law of One states that's an illusion. Everything is one. Everything comes from the same source. And like the source is God, and that's kind of like how I interpret God is the source. And basically, like what life is, and like these 8 different dimensions, it's like the source like there is no you, there is no me. Like me and you are the same. You know what I'm saying? Like what separates us is ego, and like that's the illusion that we're different, but like we're actually like the exact same being, experiencing itself at the same time.
I actually agree with you. Like we're all made up of the same stuff.
No,
I mean, there's stardust that we're made of. All that is connected. We are the universe, and the universe is us.
Literally,
Literally, all the same particles and the things on the periodic table that applies throughout the whole entire universe.
Of everything.
And the only thing that makes him different than me is, like he said, his experience. But I could have easily been born him, and he could have been born me, and we wouldn't even know the difference.
Right.
So I agree with that. Now I want to get back to God. Like you said, whatever the source is, that's God. But what's the source of the source? Where like
think of the source as a circle, right? Like that's like asking, like, at what point does the circle start?
Okay. Now I hear you. So we're looking at a circle, and a circle has no points. It has no start point and no end point, except until you start it. But if you think that God applies as a circle, then that means whatever God is infinitely circular, and whatever God is doing, he will do, and he will continue to do, right? So he's trapped in that circle.
I see where you're going. So you're trying to go to, what, predestination?
I mean, that encompasses a lot of things.
He's limited to...
Yeah, so there's no beginning, there's no end, there's just an infinite loop. It has to be, because once you reach a certain point, you're going around the same point that you already reached.
Okay.
So then I would have to ask you, are we stuck in an infinite loop?
I'll put it like this, and like I feel the same. Hand me that coaster real quick. So like I feel like the same way about time, right? So yes. So like, think of God as this disc, right?
Hold it up for the,
all right. So think of God as like this. Like this is what God is. Like this is him. Like, or it. We'll say it. So.
Be gender specific.
Yeah, you know. Anyway,
Cali.
I ain't trying to get fired. I ain't trying to get Javier fired and shit, because the LGBTQ XYZ.
A plus
A plus 310
572.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
forgive me, people.
Like they'll be at your neck, bro. But
yeah. So
this is God, right? Infinite circle. But the thing about it is that it's like a flat disc that keeps forever expanding.
Oh, so it keeps expanding.
It keeps like
and
forever.
It never breaks.
It never breaks. It's
so it's not like a rubber band.
It's like an infinite expanding disc.
So what happens when it expands? What does that mean? What does the expansion actually do?
Time.
Does that mean more things are able to happen within the circle because it has more space?
Or more things have already been done or being done?
So like on the inside of a tree, right? Like when you have those rings and stuff. So like think of it like that. Like each ring or each time or like distance that it expands and everything is like progressing and stuff.
So
like God is
a point?
Well, yeah, that's like it's not like a point. It's just like one, like think of a disc. Like think of it like without like a point.
But if you're saying expanding,
right,
then let's say this is expanded from some point.
Right.
Like a tree. There's different rings that keep adding.
And let's say this is where we're at now in its expansion. Mm-hmm. But if you go back in time, it would have had to be a point where it was a point.
Yes. Okay. So at some point it was a point.
Right.
Okay.
So then you would have to account for that.
Account for what?
At that point, was God a circle?
Yeah, possibly.
It was a point.
Like
if it was a point. If this circle had, if we reverse the expansion,
we talking about size.
We just simply talking about reversing the expansion. In your explanation, it's a consistent circle that expands. Mm-hmm. So it will grow from this to this, from this to even bigger circle.
So that means at some point it began. It had to begin
in the middle, even smaller than this disc.
Yeah. Okay.
So how? Okay.
So that's not a circle.
If we get back to that point,
a circular point.
If we get back to that point,
how you know it's not though? Like, what if it was like, and okay, so,
the smaller you make that circle, the more it becomes a point.
And like this is a perfect example of humans, right? And like why we have different religions and like all this stuff, right? So like we're physical beings, we operate in a physical universe. So like a lot of times like we get stuck on like physical examples and shit.
Okay.
Right? Like there's like this move, like it's like there's a Bruce.
Before you go any further, let me ask you this though. Before you finish your example, you said that we're physical beings in a physical universe. But how do you know we're physical beings in a physical universe? How do you know this ain't what the spirit looks like? You can't even differentiate. What would you compare it to? What do you have to compare it to?
Well, like I mean, like when we talking about spirituality and stuff like that, like, and also in the law of one, it leaves room for the quote unquote great unknown and shit. So like, there's some things that in this particular frequency or whatever, or physical realm that we inhabit, like we're just not going to be able like to comprehend and everything, right?
And that's where we get and like, religion from.
Well, right,
like
because
being able to comprehend it, we put stuff that makes sense to us in.
Well, that's like where religion comes in. That's like the God of the gaps.
Well, see, like look though, see, like that's what I'm saying. Like religion comes because we are physical beings that operate in a physical space. So because of that, it's like when you're speaking to a child, right? Like if you need to teach the kid math, you ain't gonna start with calculus. You're gonna meet the kid where it's at mentally and shit. So you're gonna use things that the kid can associate with. Like you're gonna say, like, how many apples do I have? Like how many toys do I have? So the kid can understand. But you gotta use shit that the kid can associate with.
Fair point.
It's like us, like we're the kid. So like we need physical, like that's why we think heaven is a physical place. That's why like that makes sense to us. Like that's why we think God is like this.
Like the streets are gold, and we have to relate it.
Like fuck out of here with that. Like
so you can so then because from that comes the mindset that's needed for whatever. If you believe that it's a physical place.
My problem is this: I think religion begins where knowledge ends. So whatever we can't explain, we begin to assume or assert other things to make an explanation for things we can't currently understand. People used to think the earth was flat. And that's what people thought. And if you go back far enough, if you told them the earth was round, they look at you like you was crazy. Some people still will. But now that we've figured that out, now people are trying to, we knocking things down every day. We figuring out more and more stuff. And at one point, religion had a monopoly on this because it wasn't that much you could know. And now that we know more and more, religion has become smaller and smaller and smaller. You know, people no longer walk around, for the most part, chopping people's heads off because you did witchcraft, or they burn you at the stake because you did witchcraft. We now understand witchcraft is not a thing.
We also got psychology and stuff.
Yeah, so we understand the explanations for these things. So why assume or assert anything if you have no real way of actually testing that or being able to prove it right or wrong?
It's because people get flustered when they're overwhelmed with not knowing, and it helps calm. It's a comforter. But to put that placement, everybody ain't okay with that. I'm not okay with that. You're obviously not mentally okay with that. He's not okay with that. But certain people are okay with putting a blanket over something just to calm themselves so they can move on with other things.
But I think the problem with that is nobody is born in a certain religion. Religion has to be taught. So when people make the argument that people need this, we don't know what people need.
But everybody
made them dependent on this.
When you're born questioning everything around you.
Yes, and if there's explanations, you give those explanations. But if you don't know, you say, I don't know. And maybe one day you could figure it out. Is that not a better way to teach children?
Yeah, definitely.
I believe so. That's how
See, look,
I completely agree.
Like how I feel about like religion, right? Like I feel like I agree with what you said, right? Because like everybody chooses their religion. Like like that's why the notion, like the Christian or like any fucking religion. I'm sorry, I keep on cussing it. Like any, like any
bleeps come late,
or like any religion, right?
We'll insert bleeps later.
Like they all like always preach out that we're the true ones, and you know like them over there, like they're whack or whatever, right? But a lot of that, to me, I think it comes from a misunderstanding. Like I think when in the ancient days, like when in the Bible where you say you saw angels and stuff come down, or you see this or that, I think that's them. Like aliens. Well, like I mean, it could be aliens, or it could be like, to me, I believe like those things are beings from other densities, like they're other consciousness from other densities, because again, going back to the law of one, you can choose to come back to a different density to relearn the lesson, or like to learn like a new lesson. So sometimes beings from the fifth or the sixth or the fourth density come back to the third and like relive life, because this is
that sounds
like this,
miserable.
Like this density is the best density. Like this density is like a speed track for you like to learn.
Do they remember what they went through before? No. Then what's the guarantee that they will learn what they need to learn?
But I feel like, because you ever heard of, you're an old soul, or you came back or whatever like that. Those people are born, I would say, if this is true, and if we're gonna say we believe
I'll put it like this.
You come back like we did.
I'll put it like this. You come back
like
right?
you.
You come back,
or like me. You come back with
kind of what she said. Like kind of like what she said. You come back as an old soul, but like the part that you don't remember. Like let's say like you're a fourth density being. Like you already went through life once. You learned certain lessons. You graduate to the fourth.
You come back
dimension
with that wisdom.
So like if you're
that mind state.
So like if like the next lesson you want to learn is wisdom, right? Like that's why you're a higher self. So your higher self chooses the trials and tribulations that you go through on the third density or in your life, so you can learn those lessons.
Okay,
and stuff, right? So you go back and like you forget that you come
the
from
experiences and the lives and everything.
So
you forget
you're saying that what you need to learn, you can't learn it where you at. You have to come back and learn it for some strange reason.
No, like some things you can learn, but like then like there are other lessons that you
can like, only learn in different.
It's a choice. It's a choice basically. Like kind of like what we were talking about the menu and stuff, right? So like there's like a menu. Okay, cool. Like I wanna be better at love. Like for example, like the law one talks about Jesus. Like they asked the being about Jesus and stuff, and like the way like they broke it down is that Jesus was like a fifth density being, and like he wanted to go back to practice like the ultimate lesson of love, which is why he came back to the third density and like he sacrificed himself and stuff.
And that's why he said, "I come not to bring peace but a sword."
Well, like again, because like your understanding of that is physical,
a lot of love,
right? But like he's talking about like metaphysical stuff.
Oh, okay. So you know whatever it is he couldn't get it where he was. He had to come back and get it.
No, he can get it, but because this is the density of experience, like that puts you on the fast track. This is the
best place to get it.
As far as like learning through experience and stuff, yeah.
So what happens once you achieve all you need?
So again, like there's 8 densities, right? So like the 7th density is like technically the last. Well, actually no, the 8th one is technically the last one, but it's also the first density in the next octave.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, bro.
So it never ends.
It's a circle, man. You just get higher and higher.
It sounds cool. It's something to look forward to.
It sounds miserable.
No, it don't.
Who wants to be reborn over and over again and never remember what they went through in their last life? Like that's miserable. But you're trapped in an infinite loop that you can never escape.
No. So like, okay. So like you're in the 5th. You're aware. Okay, I'm in the 5th. I'm obviously a higher being. I'm trying to learn. Like I need to either learn something for myself or maybe like there's 2 paths. There's the path of service to self, and there's a second path, which is the path of service to others and stuff. So one is considered a negative, the other one's considered a positive. You learn different things at different speeds and like at different speeds, like depending on what path you choose and stuff, right?
Okay.
So you're on the path of self.
I have a problem with this because of the simple fact is it's built in the system with a lot of assumptions. Like we assume that love is necessarily always good. We assume that learning certain lessons is better than learning other lessons.
Like why is love never good? Are you saying like it's like love is always good?
It's subjective. It's not objective because you can love somebody so much where you kill them and kill yourself. That's the type of love you don't want.
That's not really love,
But that's not love. That's something.
It kind of like just depends on.
Once again,
it depends on like your definition of love. Man.
All right, the Greeks had multiple definitions of love, different types of loves. Agape. Right. I mean, who defines what love is? Love for you can be different. You may love your woman differently than I love my woman.
Right. Okay.
So, what love are you speaking of, and how do you know that's the one you want?
Okay.
The one that's untainted.
And what if you're a being that doesn't want love?
Let me tell you my interpretation of love.
You're in a different
stuff,
realm.
right?
You're in a different octave.
Like love, well, like that's part of that, but I'm not even gonna go down that route. But I'm gonna keep it real simple. Like for me, love isn't all the butterflies and strawberries and like all that shit, right? Like that's easy. It's easy to be cool with somebody when everything is good. To me, love is like, okay, when shit is bad. Like love to me is like, how much are you willing to sacrifice for that person at your own demise? Like how much like are you willing to compromise for that person? Like how much are you willing to suffer? Like how much pain can you take for another person outside of yourself? Like,
So
like that to me is love.
Let's stick with that. So the woman who stays with her man after he beats her, abuses her and her children, she continues to endure that because she loves that man to the point where the man beats her and kills her to death.
So like at that point,
are you saying that that's love?
So like at that point, you gotta make a decision. Like, okay, is it love of them or is it love of me? Like, do I love myself enough?
What if she loves
to not
him?
be in that?
Then that's selfishness.
How is that selfishness?
Because if you love yourself enough to the point
selfishness
where
is not always negative though. You can be.
I'm proving my point. It's
you can
subjective.
be selfish about like. Well, we already agreed because like we both said that it kind of depends on your definition of love. And then I proceeded to tell my perception of love basically. So based off of my perception of love and stuff, like to answer your question about it being selfish, like it's not always bad to be selfish. Like I think that word has been given like a negative connotation. Sometimes you need to be selfish. So sometimes you being selfish helps the people.
Is selfishness built into this program of the 8 dimensions where you need to go back and receive selfishness?
Okay, so like again, like how do you define selfishness? Because you can say it's selfish to leave one of the densities, like to go back, like to learn and shit.
So who sets the requirements on what you need to obtain to get to a certain level? Is it built into the system? Is
like
it all subjective?
It's like this, like the universe as a whole operates off of like laws and stuff, right? Like for example, gravity is a law, right? Okay, so like it's the exact same thing. Like creation itself operates off of a series of laws. Okay,
now I'm with you. Let's say this creation, these 8 dimensions, operates off certain laws. Okay, we don't know who defined these laws. So the love you might come back to get may not be the love they think you should have.
Who's they?
Whoever it is create the system. I don't know who set up the system, the 8 dimensions that you speak of. But whoever that is who makes the laws, they must have a requirement to meet a certain threshold for you to get to the next level. And I'm guessing in this model, they tell you this. When you get to a certain level, they tell you, hey, you need to go back and get this type particular love.
Well, like, so you're making a choice to go back and get like this particular type of love. Nobody's telling you that. It's like the way that I understand it. It's a conscious choice of like, okay, it's a conscious choice of self-assessing. So it's like, I want to become a more whole being. Okay, so I got this. Like, where am I weak at? Like, let me look at this. Okay, cool. Like, I want to learn how to be more service to others.
So that includes hate. That includes selfishness. Like, if a person says, I want to be a whole person, because part about being what we are, these emotions exist for a reason.
Did I say that? I said I didn't say a whole person. Like, did I say that?
Well, not a whole being, a better being.
Right.
And in order to be a better being, you can't understand love without hate.
Okay. Yeah.
So is hate built into this model?
Yeah.
That you come back for hate.
Like love and hate, it's the exact same thing. Like the path to self-service and the path to service to others is the same thing. Like that's the whole point. Everything is one. There's just like different ways to get to that same point. It's not that one is better than the other. It's not about right and it's not about bad and good. It's about what works and what doesn't work, basically. Think of it like that.
Okay, so that's the point I was trying to get. Like, it's subjective because who gets to define these things? But
it might depend on the individual.
Okay, let's say it depends on the individual. But it doesn't depend on the individual because he just stated that we're all one. We're all one and the same. So if he got something, I got it too. Because we're all the same.
But how we experience things differently. So he said that it was to get all to the one. It all circles back down to the same thing, and we all one in it.
So if we're all
we
one,
all have different.
I don't need to go back and get love because he already got love, and we are one. So when you sum it all up,
it's like this.
We're all one. So if I'm missing a piece, he's a part of me too. But he got that piece, so we should be already fulfilled.
Okay, so I'm gonna say something real controversial and shit. And again, I would suggest anybody who's interested, like, to really check out the Law of One. Like, whether you believe it or not and stuff, it's always good for, like, debate or, like,
most
you want to, like, think outside the box. So basically, what it is, like we're all what creation is basically God. Now, when I say God, like just like divorce yourself from traditional ideas of God, right? Like it's not some Christian Muhammad. It's not anything of that. Like just think of God as like creation as a whole, like the source. In Star Wars, they call it the Force. Like it's a force basically, right? So basically, what we all are in all these different densities, it's that one source breaking itself down
into multiple parts.
It's in multiple parts. So like that's why we're all the same thing. The reason why it's doing that is creating experiences to like keep perpetually learning itself.
Okay, so this thing doesn't have a full understanding of itself. It needs to break itself down in order to get a full understanding of itself.
I mean, I don't know, maybe like
okay,
based off of to my understanding, like it's not really known. Like there's there's a space beyond where it's like it's called the great unknown, basically. You know what I'm saying? But
that sounds like a cop out. It sounds like a cop out because I tend to stick to things that I know and things that I don't know. Mm-hmm. And the moment I start getting into things that I don't know and making assumptions, then we go down this endless.
But that's the law one.
This endless rabbit hole. You know what I'm saying? Like all these things that can't be answered, these things that we don't know, and you'll never get the answers. So,
how you go to Google? I'm sorry, man. Go ahead. No,
yeah, we actually recording the Javier Javier show right now.
Yeah,
so we got research afterwards.
Okay.
Please. So, the thing about religion is religion can be anything. I can literally start my own religion right now and name it whatever I want it and say squirrels are really the overlords and they came down here and they're watching us from the trees, making sure we're doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing. We should be worshiping the squirrels, providing them nuts. Mm-hmm. It's our job to collect them nuts and bring them nuts. And if we bring them nuts, then good fortune will come to us. It's your world, squirrel. I'm just trying to catch a nut. You know what I'm saying? So you can literally do anything with religion. That's what makes religion so bad. A guy can wake up tomorrow and create a religion and tell people to go out and kill and murder other people.
Okay, but that's not that's not a function of religion. Like that's a function of the practitioner, right? Because you say that about anything. People waking up talking about I feel like a girl, so now I'm a girl. So you can do that with anything. That's not a religion problem. Like that's a people problem to me. It's
a people problem and it's a religion problem. The reason I said it's a religion problem is because of this. There are people who do things that would not have done those things if it were not for what their religion teaches them to do.
Like what?
Okay.
A lot of shit.
Oh yeah, circumcision.
Okay.
Okay. For the most history,
Christmas.
The people who were circumcising themselves were people who taught that in their religion. They were chopping off the pieces of little boys' penises for the simple fact of this is what the religion says. If it was not for the religion, I would not be doing this.
Well, also it was also hygienial purposes too, like for cleanliness.
Christmas.
Okay, yeah, like that.
Easter.
Yeah, like you'll
communion.
Okay,
you'll have different holidays based off different religions.
Okay, you can make the argument that circumcision is for hygiene purposes, but that's not the purpose that's given in the text of the Bible.
It talks about for cleaning, like it
talks about
cleanliness.
A covenant.
Right, no, yeah, but it also talks about cleanliness and everything. So like the cleanliness is also a metaphor for the metaphysical idea behind that.
Okay, but that presupposes that an uncircumcised penis is not clean, which is not the case. Be very hygienic.
No, yeah, like you gotta do an extra step and you gotta be extra, but it's scientifically proven that it's cleanlier to have your dick to have your dick, circumcised though.
Okay, but it also is scientifically proven that children die from circumcision.
When children die from circumcision?
It happens.
Okay.
Kids actually catch infections and die from being circumcised.
Okay.
It happens all the time.
Like how often is that?
I mean, it happens enough. I mean, do you want to be that baby that died from the wrong circumcision?
People like in a minority, you can say that about anything. Though,
yeah, but it's an unnecessary death.
Okay.
Because you didn't have to circumcise that kid.
I can see that argument if it was like this big epidemic of kids dying from circumcision.
Oh, it's just a minority, so don't worry about it. That's like saying
it's not.
Nobody's dying from not being circumcised.
It's not right, exactly. Like it's not like I'm not saying like don't worry about it and stuff like that. Like I'm bringing that up because I'm bringing that up to counteract the vibe of what you're trying to imply. That,
so it's not one kid.
Like it's this.
It's not one kid dying from circumcision. Not enough to say we shouldn't be doing this. It's not necessary.
Well, like one,
just pull your skin back and do what you gotta do.
Well, the reason why I say that is because if the majority is not having this problem, and like there's a certain percentage that is having that problem, then like the next step to that is to investigate. Okay, like what is it about?
Instead of just
but nobody that
like
isn't circumcised is having this problem.
Right, exactly.
No.
So you're really killing kids. You know how many kids that die for no reason just for the simple fact that they got circumcised? So I don't care if it was one kid, two kids. That's like saying, well, only the blacks are enslaved and they're a minority, so let's just investigate it more.
That's a false
but in the meantime,
it's a false equivalency, like to try to equivocate like the cost of a human life versus a hygienial practice.
You made it a minority versus a majority thing. You said because it's such a small number, therefore we shouldn't get rid of the practice. We should investigate it more.
No, I mean if you don't want your kids circumcised, like by all means, like don't like I'm not saying we should put a gun to everybody's head, but like you can believe like what you want to believe. Me personally, like I mean, it doesn't seem to be an epidemic of motherfuckers dying from fucking circumcision.
But because somebody has died from circumcision and nobody's died from not having the circumcision,
it's a bad practice.
Like, why even do it?
And the reason I say it's a bad practice is for the simple fact I use the example of slavery because of the simple fact is if nobody was dying from being slaves, you could not make the same argument that, well, it ain't killing them, so...
No, because like then it becomes an argument of morals and like human decency. Like that's what the slavery argument is about.
And the same thing for the kids is the argument is if it's not necessary, it's a moral thing. The moral thing is why are we doing this to kids if it's not necessary, knowing that some of them will die? Why would you continue to do this?
Yeah, well,
versus I
don't know.
Now I may be uninformed. I may have certain information wrong, but I know children die.
We should pull up like the percentages and like have people in the comments like what y'all think, right? Like I want somebody like to look up like the stats to that shit.
Yeah, but the fact that there's stats at all versus not being circumcised.
Nobody that one kid that died for something unnecessary.
Right.
Like okay, all right. So like there's like a large. All right, I'm gonna dead this shit right here. Like the large percentage of the population aren't allergic to peanuts. There's a small percentage that is allergic to peanuts. So what are we supposed to do? Like just stop fucking making peanuts? Like we supposed to stop that?
No, they just don't eat peanuts.
Exactly. Okay, cool. So like don't get your kids circumcised.
But when you get on an airplane, if there's somebody on the airplane that is allergic to peanuts, nobody on the plane can have peanuts. You know that, right?
No.
Yeah, that's the thing. If somebody's on the plane that's allergic to peanuts, they won't sell peanuts on that plane because it's a high possibility that the peanut can rub on somebody's hand and accidentally get exposed to that person that's allergic to peanuts.
I never heard of that, man. We got to look that up because I have a hard time. I'm from Cali, the place where we like facts and research. You're right.
You tell us who got the facts.
What side?
So well, let's not go too far. We got many more things to come, and we're not going to go too much in depth right now about these things, but we will finish this conversation. We appreciate you all tuning in. I would like for you to like, subscribe, and share on all your media platforms. This is the Javier Show. So, all right, folks, you came, you saw, and you can run and tell them I said it. And if they ask for me, my name, make sure you say it twice. This is the Javier Show.